Okay, so I'm going to talk about all this line stuff. So, to start with, let's talk about these definitions. So, a line is a mark that moves from one spot to another. Something along those lines. Alright? It's a little bit hard to explain, but the idea, in art at least, is that a line is a mark that starts on one spot on your surface and moves to another. Okay? Line quality is the nature of a specific line. So that'd be thickness, darkness, etc. That can really be like any adjective that describes a line. A holographic line is a line which varies in thickness throughout the stroke. Contour lines are lines that define important edges. So contour lines are like what you would normally see in a color book. Probably the type of lines that you would usually use to draw something. Cross contour lines are lines that move across a surface. Can you repeat that? They're lines that move across a surface and define its form. So they will, like this elephant here, you can see they kind of curve, and they have a curve to show the roundness of the elephant's body. Hatching is a set. Oops, that's not how you spell set. A set of parallel lines that are used to shade.
Sort of what? Parallel lines do what?
Parallel lines used to shade. And I'll show you these in a minute too. And then cross hatching is hatching with a second perpendicular hatching pattern. All right. So hopefully by reading through the information above, you can explain these in your own words. That's what I'm looking for. If you are not able to give an explanation of these in your own words after having read through this, you need to look up here again. You have failed to gain comprehension. You need to review. Okay? It's important that you know what these words mean. You're not going to have your notes when you do your tests. All right. So, it says draw lines of varied quality based on the adjectives below. So it's handy here if I get a marker, because a marker is going to be able to do some things that are a little bit trickier with my pencil. So I'm going to show you how to do these things both with a marker and a pencil. So with the pencil, if I want to draw a thick line, I can actually, let me get my drawing pencil. I can actually take my pencil and lay it down so that I've got surface area touching all the way down the point instead of just the tip, and I can make a thick line that way. See that? I could also, if I wanted to, just use the tip, the point of it, and just kind of thicken it up. That's fine, you know. If I can't do it in one stroke, I can go back in, rework the line until it's thick. With my pen, I've got a brush tip pen or a marker. There's also chisel tip markers. Markers have all sorts of different tips, but the brush tip one, I can do the same sort of thing. I can lay it down at an angle, and I can move it sideways, and that'll give me a nice thick line. Now for my thin line, with my pencil, I just want to use the point of the pencil, and that should make the line thin. Same idea with the marker. I just want to use the tip, keep the line as thin as possible. So for a light line, I just want to apply as little pressure as I can. And I might even, if I want to be really light, I might even lay the entirety of my graphite on there, the whole tip. Just apply as little pressure as possible. I don't even know if that shows up. Kind of does. Hard to do with a marker. Marker kind of makes the same tone of line however you do it. So we'll skip that. And then for my dark one, that's just the opposite. I want to get right up onto the tip, and I want to apply as much pressure as is reasonable without going through the paper. All right. For my quick line, for this one, I might draw something specific, and I might try to do it quickly. So let's maybe do a star, okay? So I'll do a star real quick, okay? And then I can do the same thing here slowly. And I think drawing the same thing in both of these boxes sort of shows us how the quality changes between these two sort of opposite methods. All right? So I think that's kind of useful to do it that way. You're going to draw your shoe using bold, thick lines for the outline and thin lines for the interior contour lines. All right? So this is working with the idea of maybe making your outlines have a different quality than your interior lines. I'm going to sketch it out first, actually. I think it's a little easier to do this if I kind of have a sketch to start. It's a little easier for me to be confident and know where my outlines are going to be as opposed to my interior contours. Try not to belabor this too much. Something like that. So, if I'm going to use bold, thick lines for the outlines, just anywhere where this shoe is touching the background, I'm going to use my marker, and I'm using the side of my marker. You might be able to use a pencil and just rework the line, or use the side of the graphite, or whatever. There's a lot of different methods you can use for this. I'm mainly doing the marker because I think it's the quickest and easiest. All right, and then for my interior lines, I might switch to the other side, or I might switch my tool. I might use a pencil. So these markers are dual tips, so I can use the thin tip. If I needed to, since this has a brush tip, I could also just apply a little less pressure. It's a little harder to control, I think. All right. Next, write your name using calligraphic lines. So if I wanted to do that with my marker, it'd be really easy to do. I just have to hold my marker so that it's at the same angle. And when I change directions with my lines, it'll actually change the quality of the lines. So let's take a look at that. I'm actually going to hold it like this. And I'm going to get thin downstrokes and thicker sideways strokes. Okay. See how you get that variation? Now, if I want to use a pencil for this, I can actually use kind of the same technique. Hold my pencil like this so that the lead's touching, right? And then when I go sideways, I do it right. There, gotta get the angle just right. It'll make a slightly thicker line. So you have some variation in the thickness of the line. That's what I mean by a holographic line. Okay. Next. Shade these shapes using hatching. So hatching is going to be the sets of parallel lines that we use to shade. So I'm going to kind of define my light source. My light source is going to be coming from on the right side, up above, as we might expect. So if I'm going to use hatching, my highlight's going to be kind of in this area. So I'm going to start by kind of just putting some light hatching everywhere that's not part of that highlight. And then I'm going to gradually add hatching in layers so that I have more and more as we move away from that light. We'll get it really tight and dark here. Okay, so real simple. I don't need to do too much. I might, if I want to, I can add some hatching for a cast shadow. All right. So same idea with the cylinder. It's going to be lighter on the right side. And it's going to be shaded with the gradient. So I'll start by just kind of applying some sparse hatching there. Move over a little bit, add some more. Then over towards the side, I'll get really thick with it. And even add a pretty simple cast shadow. Right? So the box here, actually this shadow here is no good for my light source on this side, but that's okay, we'll ignore it. For my box, I'd probably just do some even hatching on this whole side. So that's the idea. Right? Same thing here, but instead of just the hatching, we're going to use cross hatching, so we'll go the other way. But same idea, just trying to have more of it towards the bottom and less of it as we get closer to the highlight up here. Like that. The cross contour lines to show the curves are going to look like this. Just going to make lines that kind of follow the curvature of each object. And then for the cube, there's going to be straight lines. All right. Next, draw an animal using a holographic line for its contours. Define its form using cross contours. So we want to think here about, like, how do we decide the thickness of a line if we're drawing an animal. Okay. I'm gonna try to do an elephant here, if this works out. A baby elephant. Looks like it has a baby's proportions. That's alright, that'll work. Alright, so one way I might think about it is if I think about light coming from over on the right hand side at the end, I might kind of darken the edges that are away from the light. Or thicken, I guess. I'm not really darkening because they kind of stay the same. And then on these edges that are a little closer, I might go a little thinner. And that can kind of show the way the light and shadow are on it. All right, and then, oops. Use cross contours to kind of define the form of it. So these would be kind of curvy, right? So they kind of show the shape of our elephant here. All right, and then animal using thick, dark lines for its outline and thinner, lighter lines for its interior contours. Got show the cat here. So then thick dark lines for its outline. This here a little bigger. Thinner lines for the interior contours here. So there we go. All right. And I think that's it. Am I right? Yep. So on the assignment on the squiggle, there's some couple key points here. Feel free to alter the original squiggle. If you don't like the line that I or whoever drew for you, you want to change it up a little bit, that's fine. All right. That's a starting point. It's just to give you ideas. And we need to have markers for calligraphic lines, colored pencils for cross contours, pen for hatching, and pencil for cross hatching. All right, so make sure you have those. I want you to demonstrate all of those techniques to me, and the way you're going to do it is you're going to use the different materials so I can see what you're showing with what. All right, if you get finished with that and you want something else to do, you can try doing one of these spirally portraits. Basically what this is a spiral that fills your whole page, and then you thicken the line in places to make value, and you can make faces that way. You don't have to go super complex like this one or this one. This one's a little simpler, but you could keep it really simple. You could make like a jack-o'-lantern face or a skull or something like fairly simple, and I don't think it'd be nearly as tricky to do as some of these ones over here. So yeah, there we go.